In the Vedic literature, it is stated that the two wings of the transcendental bird Garuda, who carries the Lord everywhere, are two divisions of Samaveda known as Brahat and Ratantara. Garuda works as the carrier of the Lord, therefore he is considered the transcendental prince of all carriers. With his two wings, Garuda began to vibrate the Samaveda, which is chanted by great sages to pacify the Lord. The Lord is worshipped by Brahma, by Lord Shiva, by Garuda and other demigods with selected poems. And the great sages worship him with hymns of Vedic literature such as Upanishads and Samaveda. These Samaveda utterances are automatically heard by the devotees. When another great devotee of the Lord, Garuda, flaps his wings. It is clearly stated here that the sage Kardama began to look to the path by which the Lord was being carried to Vaikuntha. It is thus confirmed that the Lord descends from his abode, Vaikuntha, in the spiritual sky and is carried by Garuda. The path that leads to Vaikuntha is not worshipped by the ordinary class of transcendentalists. Only those who are already liberated from material bondage can become devotees of the Lord. Those who are not liberated from material bondage cannot understand the transcendental devotional service. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated, Yatatam api siddhanam. There are many persons who are trying to attain perfection by striving for liberation from material bondage. And those who are actually liberated are called Brahma Bhuta or Siddha. Only Siddhas or persons liberated from material bondage can become devotees. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Anyone who is engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service is already liberated from the influence of the modes of material nature. Hence, it is also confirmed that the path of devotional service is worshipped by liberated persons, not the conditioned souls. The conditioned soul cannot understand the devotional service of the Lord. Kardama Muni was a liberated soul who saw the Supreme Lord in person, face to face. There is no doubt that he was liberated, and thus he could see Garuda carrying the Lord on the way to Vaikuntha and hear the flap of his wings vibrating the sound of Hare Krishna, the essence of Samaveda. So in the previous verse we saw how the Lord departed from Kardama Muni after having spoken to him. And there Prabhupada explained that all the things that was seen by Kardama Muni was by the special revelation of the Lord. With his ordinary eyes, he could see the transcendental form of the Lord. Even though the Lord is known as Adokshaja, one who cannot be seen by the material senses, but yet he was seen by the material senses of Kardama Muni. And that is because of Pratyak Akshaya. Pratyak. The Lord directly manifested before Kardama Muni, which is purely his prerogative. The Lord, if He wants, He can do anything. And now the sage stood looking on. The Lord left by the pathway leading to Vaikuntha, a path extolled by all great liberated souls. So, Kardama Muni saw also a pathway. So, what is this pathway? Is this pathway in space? Space has got so many directions, 360 directions. So, is it one of those directions, the pathways he saw?
And then he saw the pathway and he saw that the bird, Garuda, who is a carrier of the Lord, was vibrating by flapping the wings,
vibrating Samaveda. So all these things were observed by Kardama Muni directly perceived by him. So Prabhupada explains that the path which leads to Vaikuntha is not worshipped by ordinary class of transcendentalists. This entire secret existence of Vaikuntha Loka itself is not worshipped by ordinary class of transcendentalists. When Prabhupada says ordinary class of transcendentalist, here is meaning impersonalist. They are also called transcendentalists. Impersonalist, they may control their senses, all these things. They reject the three modes of material nature, and they directly perceive Brahman. So those who are in that track, neither they understand what is being told here, revealed here, or they misunderstand in some other way, that these are all part of three gunas. Even Vaikuntha Loka is part of three gunas. So the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, Supreme Lord Krishna, as a personality, is something that is inconceivable to everybody. It is inconceivable to the mind. Conceiving or inconceiving means it is for the logic and for rational mind, conceiving and inconceiving. Existence does not end with all that you conceive and not all that you cannot conceive. Existence is absolute existence. That means it cannot be limited to our mind. So there are so many things, even in our ordinary day-to-day things, which our tiny mind cannot comprehend. So how can we ever think that we can reduce existence to simply, yes, three modes of material nature, all these material varieties. I am Brahman, I am separate from matter, and I am merged into the ocean of Brahman. That's all. That is the entire philosophy of Brahman. So impersonal philosophy is very, in one sense, if you look at compare it to the philosophy or compare to the challenge that is there to understand the transcendental form of the Lord, Leelas of the Lord, the Vaikuntha Loka of the Lord, is this impersonal philosophy is a kindergarten. So, impersonal philosophy is over. In 2 lines it's over. In 2 lines it's over. What is that? They are all temporary material nature. Beyond temporary, there is something eternal. I am eternal. I will merge into that eternal. No form, no taste, no name, nothing, no activity, nothing. So oversimplifying. It has no answers for any of these things. Why this existence? Why these varieties of existence? Why these 84 lakh species of, why different forms are existing in this material world? They have to explain. Aquatics, birds, reptiles, wild animals, four-legged animals, human beings, how many varieties of, in each category, how many varieties, 84 lakh species of forms are there, lives are there. What is the basis for that? Why they exist? If the absolute is impersonal, absolute is Brahman, then why these varieties are there? If these varieties are there, why in this particular form the varieties are there? None of these things can be explained by the impersonal philosophy, the transcendentalist. And on the other hand, if somebody wants to understand the absolute truth, who is a personality? Who is a personality? Who is Vishnu? Vishnu Tattva, from whom everything is emanating. Am sarvasya prabho mata sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhajante mam buddhabhava samanvitaha. So from from everything is coming, that is a person, is a Vyakti. Now in the material world we don't understand, we only understand limited Vyaktis, limited persons we understand. We don't understand the concept, we have never heard about unlimited person. Person means limited. That is where all these speculators get stuck. Because to understand the idea itself of an unlimited person, you need the mercy of the Lord Himself through His devotees. That is a key thing, to understand that God is a person, Supreme Lord is a person. To understand that God is not a person, you don't need the mercy of God. You can, in a way, you can ascend to the Brahman level. By your effort, you can ascend to the Brahman level. By jnanic process, you can ascend to the Brahman level. But you cannot ascend to the Vaikuntha level because it is beyond our tiny brain. It has to descend to us. Just like Kardama Muni, where he was, there the Lord descended. Lord appeared before him on Garuda, a transcendental form, beautiful smiling form of the Lord. With his ordinary eyes he could see. Obviously with his ordinary eyes, through his ordinary eyes, but naturally his spiritual eyes was also opened by the Lord. Because without that spiritual eyes opening, he will not be able to see this pathway of Vaikuntha, the Vaikuntha Lok, the Lord's transcendental form one cannot see. The Lord opens the eyes of the devotee. Brahman is everywhere. But Vaikuntha Loka is not everywhere. Vaikuntha Loka is in Vaikuntha.
Brahman is everywhere. The Shastras also say, wherever there is our material space, there is Brahman. Brahman is everywhere. But Vaikuntha is Vaikuntha Loka. Lord's form is in Vaikuntha Loka. Now Lord Narayana's form is in Vaikuntha Loka. Even in this material world, the super soul is in Kshira ocean. That is also Vaikuntha Loka. There is a Vaikuntha Loka within each Brahmanda. Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is lying down there. So that is another Loka.
The Lord comes down, gives darshan to his devotees. So this whole Krishna consciousness thing is not some, an impersonal mechanistic theory where you just, this material world is all full of, transient nature, so something is eternal, that I should go there. Realizing Brahman, attaining Brahman, or understanding I am not this body is a beginning of devotional services, Prabhupada says. In that sense. In that sense. So the pathway to Vaikuntha, in another way, actually he saw a pathway.
But Prabhupada here explains in this purport that he is not saying that pathway is devoted. He actually saw a pathway, he actually saw Narayana, he actually saw a pathway. That means there are so many things that our senses, our ordinary senses cannot grasp.
Unless internal senses are also awakened by the Lord. Now only our deepest, our sense of seeing is there, but our discriminatory power of seeing different details in different dimensions, all these things are limited to this size. Even Arjuna, when he was shown Vishwarupa, he had to be given another kind of an eyes inside, by which he could see the Vishwarupa. So there are so many things that we have no idea of at all in this material world. And yet man is puffed up and he thinks, he tries to measure everything in existence with his 5 senses. He tries to measure everything with his tiny brain. So what the Srimad Bhagavatam is saying, these are not anything. One easy way to dismiss all these things is to say these are all stories. Truth has to be complicated. Actually, he is thinking that when you say God is a person, it is simple, he is thinking. But it is so complicated. When we come into Krishna consciousness and practice Krishna consciousness, then we realize it is not easy. Unless the Lord reveals, you cannot really understand the various aspects of personalism. One cannot understand. So many aspects of personal philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it's a very big challenge for us to understand. And that challenge can be met, or that challenge can be overcome only by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. That is why it is said that to advance in the personal philosophy, to advance towards Krishna consciousness, there is knowledge, there is transcendental knowledge. There are, just like this material knowledge, material varieties, so much knowledge is there. In the same way, there is an ocean of knowledge about Lord, Vaikuntha. There is knowledge in the spiritual world. But for someone to enjoy that knowledge, he needs to be liberated, according to what Srila Prabhupada is saying here. It's very important. So one has to be liberated. Now we are in the process of doing devotional service. But when we come to the point of engaging in devotion service 24 hours, nothing else but Krishna's pleasure, then we transcend. Sa gunan samite tan brahma bhoyaya kalpate. Then we transcend the 3 modes of material nature automatically. You don't have to meditate on Brahman. You automatically, it is a because if you are engaged in devotional service of the Lord, now we are engaged in mixed process of devotional service, where our devotional service is mixed with 3 gunas. It is mixed with 3 gunas. This is called mixed devotion service. By performing mixed devotion service, it is not that sometime, unless I become pure, I cannot understand all these things. It is a fact. One cannot fully understand all these things, the personal aspect of the Lord, unless one is pure. But that does not mean that if one engages in service of the Lord with faith, that accelerates the process of purification. Ishikena Ishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. This is the process of bhakti that we are following. Even if your senses are impure, even if your mind is impure, even if your intelligence is impure, these are all senses. Even if your senses are impure, somehow engage them for the pleasure of the Lord, in service of the Lord, in seva of Rishikesha. Then that path is so powerful that slowly it will push out the three modes of material nature from our consciousness. And then pure consciousness will prevail. This is a process. And pure consciousness prevails, then all these things can be understood. All these things can be understood, all these things can be perceived. One gets qualified to perceive these things. But perceiving these things means in the spiritual realm, anything you want to perceive, the person wants to be seen. Like Lord Narayana has to agree to be seen, then you can see. Here has agreed to come, then he has no limitations of time, space, material space, all these things. He will come and he will give darshan. And that is what is happening here in Kardama Muni. And then he is living now after blessing him. So this material world itself is about is 1/4 of the Lord's manifestations. 3/4 is spiritual world. So it's like entire spiritual world, material world, everything is coming from that Vyakti, that one person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govindam Adipurusham, further expanded into so many, his own Swamshas as the Lord of everything, including the Vishnu, who is all pervading Vishnu here in the material world. And so many of his energies are operating all over. And we are the living entities, tiny living entities. We find ourselves struggling in the material world, trying to satisfy our soul's innermost instinct. What is that? Satchidananda. This is another fact. Every one of us, every living entity is trying for permanency, eternity, existence, knowledge, and rasa. Every living entity is trying. This is an observation. So the Vedic scriptures, our Bhagavatam, the descending process of knowledge, gives us forget about understanding Vaikunta. Even this material world we cannot understand with our little senses. To understand material world itself, you need the Shastras. Then you can understand. The Shastra says that this material world, there are 84 lakh species of life, and according to consciousness, they keep evolving. And every living entity is evolving through this 84 lakh species of life. Evolving means either evolve up or down. Abbrahma bhuvana loko punaravartano Arjuna. We are not saying that evolving means in one way. The living entity has got the choice. Let's say he is in the human form of life. He's got a choice to either go to higher gunas, or he can fall into a life with lower gunas, animal species, everything. Freedom is there. Everyone is given freedom. So how important is our freedom? Every one of us are where we are today because of our free will. How we have exercised our free will. If you have prayed to the Lord, then He will take you somewhere. But if you have not prayed to the Lord, He will not take you there. You have to desire. The Lord will not desire for you. You have to desire. You have to desire for the Lord. You have to desire for, of course, when you desire for something, suppose you desire, you don't have to desire for everything. If you desire, I have to go 10 miles, then you don't have to desire, again, I have to go 9 miles, I have to go 8 miles, I have to go 7 miles. No. If you desire 10 miles, the Lord will take care. But definitely somewhere, everything that wherever we move, we have to have desire. If you are in spiritual life here because you have some desire, therefore you came here. Now desire is not the only factor. In the material world, for the ascending process, desire and one's own effort, one can go up. In the spiritual process of going nearer to Krishna or Vaikuntha, desire and you need grace. You need something from there. You need divine grace. And that's what Prabhupada is, divine grace. He brings that divine grace. Divine grace means is grace in the form of transcendental knowledge, confidential knowledge, that enlightening power, the torchlight of knowledge, detachment. It's a Shakti. Detachment is a Shakti because something is attached, let us say artificially attached. Let's say you stick two things with araldite. Now you want to detach it. You need Shakti or not? Detachment needs Shakti. Similarly, we are attached to this body. A Shakti is required to detach us. Is it not? Where that Shakti has to come from somewhere. That comes from the Lord. Comes from the spiritual master. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasada. By the combined mercy of Guru Krishna, one can get separated from this misidentification with this body, with this world, etc. So, coming to the point of saying that how important it, if Kardama Muni is seeing the Lord, is having darshan of the Lord, there is something in Kardama Muni that invoked the Lord before him. Otherwise, why he is not coming before everybody? Or if Narada Muni got a darshan, there is something in him that, or Dhruva Maharaj, something. The soul offers something, so he should understand how important, how proactive, how important is my desire, my spiritual desire to want the Lord. And that's how the entire existence works, entire evolution also. If the living entity wants to evolve, if the living entity wants to progress towards bhakti, one has to have desire to surrender, desire to become pure, desire for transcendental knowledge, desire to see oneself detached, desire to properly glorify the Lord, like how Garuda is how Prabhupada says any devotee hears this. The Samaveda utterances are automatically heard by devotee. When another great devotee of the Lord, Garuda, flaps his wings. So, the glorification, to glorify the Lord, you need the mercy of the Lord. The living entity by itself, he has got faculties.
He has got faculty of sense of seeing, touching, smelling, thinking, feeling, willing. But unless he is in the right field, unless that living entity goes into the right field, his thinking, feeling, willing will not manifest in that dimension. For instance, now let us say, we are all in this material atmosphere. This is a dimension, we are in material atmosphere. The living entity has got basic faculty of thinking, feeling, willing, sensations and all this, sense of seeing, touching, smell. Now what is happening here in the material world? All those faculties are engaging the material energy. 3 modes of material energy. And it is called separated energy because it separates you from Krishna. It makes you forgetful of Krishna. Makes you forgetful of Krishna. Now when you engage in devotional service, just see what happens. We are changing our field. We are seeing the deities, we are taking prasadam, we are not, we are changing the field of application of our sense of seeing, touching, smelling, tasting, thinking, everything. We are thinking of serving Krishna, we are acting for Krishna. These are all sense faculties, soul's faculties. Matter does not have all these faculties. That is the point, Hrishikena Hrishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate.
The simple process of engaging all our senses in service of the Lord continuously. That is, automatically we become free from the three modes of material nature and experience transcendental Sattva-guna. Gradually to Sattva-guna, then transcendental Sattva-guna. So unless one goes to transcendental Sattva-guna, then one cannot understand all these things, one cannot go into that dimension. As I said, just like we are in this dimension, we experience this dimension. We experience three modes of material nature. When we are moving to that dimension, then we experience that. That's why soul is called the marginal energy. Maya's biggest success is to take away from our original domain. And then bewilder, the two aspects of Maya. One is take us away from our original domain and then bewilder us with another domain. So our original domain is Vaikuntha Loka. In other words, or Krishna, we make us forget Krishna and make us bewilder everything. Material energy bewilders everyone. So these impersonalists who are one class of transcendentalists, because they are stuck with this three modes of material nature and they don't want to take this descending process of knowledge of the transcendental form of the Lord. They are permanently blocked here. In one little aspect of Maya, which is bewildering material energy, they want to go and become Brahman. That Prabhupada says it will not last, because every particle of Brahman is intrinsically sensuous. There is nothing impersonal. There is no particle of Brahman which is impersonal. Every particle is personal. It may be suppressed, it may be in the Brahman. Let us say, even if you have sense of seeing in Brahman, you turn around, what do you see? Huh? You see only light. No, what variety is there? Can you identify yourself from somebody else? You are also light, he is also light. Cannot, no? So what will you think? I am he, you is me. Correct? Experientially. But actually every particle is there in this Brahmajyoti. Is an individual particle. But deep within suppose then that is why when the Brahman comes in touch with material energy variety, suddenly his inherent intrinsic quality of sense of identity starts manifesting, false ego. In fact, when the living entity falls, he first falls into mode of goodness, false ego in the mode of goodness. Because he went there by goodness. Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi. Because Brahman is goodness. There he falls. Then variety comes into this material world. So there are many persons who are trying to attain perfection by striving for liberation from material bondage, and those who are actually liberated are called Brahmabhuta. Only the Siddhas or person liberated from material bondage can become devotees. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Then in the case, what happens to us? We are not liberated from the influence of three modes of material nature. Then are we devotees? Can we become devotees? Further he explains here. The conditioned soul cannot understand devotion service of the Lord. Kardama Muni, before that, sorry. Here it is confirmed that the path of devotion service is worshipped by liberated persons, not the conditioned souls. The conditioned soul cannot understand the devotion service of the Lord. For this, it is a fact that unless one is free from the influence of three modes of material nature, he is still not a devotee. But there is one good thing. You can become a devotee of a devotee till then. Pure devotees come down into this material world can they receive the services of the Lord? The path of devotion service, the path of service, that is why every service that we offer to Krishna is offered through Guru. It is a fact that without being free from the three modes of material nature, you cannot touch Vishnu. Whether we offer deity worship, whether we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we need the blessings of Prabhupada. We are doing any service to Lord Krishna. If Lord Krishna has to accept it, it is because of Prabhupada. So therefore, our stature in spiritual life, our stature in devotion service is coming due to the stature of Prabhupada. That you have to understand. Not on one's own stature. Now between Prabhupada and ourselves, we need to see, oh, how much I can follow him, how strictly I can follow him, how much I am not following him, how I should become more and more sincere in my service to Srila Prabhupada.
So our imperfect devotion service in the impure form is accepted by Srila Prabhupada, and he sees whatever is there in that devotional value is there, sincerity is there to transcend and go back to Godhead. To that degree, that service is forwarded to Krishna. So when Krishna looks at us, he looks at us through Srila Prabhupada. Suppose you don't look at Krishna through Prabhupada, then it looks very funny, isn't it? Krishna looks at you through Prabhupada, means Krishna looks at you as servant of Prabhupada. Now you look at Krishna and think I am servant of Krishna. Looks funny. It doesn't make sense. You have to look at Krishna the way Krishna looks at you. Krishna looks at you as servant of Prabhupada. So you have to look Krishna as I am servant of Srila Prabhupada. This is our existential position of a Vaishnava. He is eternally connected to his Sadguru, to Krishna. One may be circumstantially connected to so many Vaishnavas. That is situational or circumstantial relationship, surrender. Let's say you are in a temple, you have to surrender to temple president's instructions. It is circumstantial. There is no question of, see, spiritual life means practicing surrender. One has to practice surrender. When you practice surrender in a temple under the temple authority's instruction, when you carry on, that is circumstantial, that's not existential. Existential means it will never change. I am servant of Prabhupada will never change. Now I follow Prabhupada's instruction, is made it in a particular way, okay, this is the way Prabhupada wants me to serve under the guidance of this. Because Sadhu Sangha is a principle of Vaishnava advancement. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Sadhu Sangha is a very important element. So how Sadhu Sangha is to live in the midst of the Vaishnavas and engage in devotional service. So in the same way, when we see everything, we have to see again through the eyes of Prabhupada, the way Prabhupada sees. Suppose you see Prabhupada in one way, you are in a temple, you see Prabhupada in one way. I don't care for anybody. I only care for Prabhupada. I won't listen to the temple president. I don't know anybody, I don't listen to. This is short-circuiting his life. Why? Because if you see you should see Prabhupada the way Prabhupada sees you. How does Prabhupada see you? As a member of the community, as a member of the Sadhu Sangha. All the sadhus are staying together, they are executing devotion service. This is the way Prabhupada is seeing. There is no this thing about it.
If you read the Prabhupada, how he saw the temple, now also he will see the temple the same way. When he was alive, how he wrote letters, what he did, how he saw, it is very clearly there. So one should not create artificial, ideas of what Guru thinks, what Krishna thinks. One has to go according to the way Prabhupada has, according to the way the Shastra says. And then there is a relationship. Then there is a rapport. If there is no, if you are concocting relationship, because first of all, these relationships are not seen with the eyes. Suppose I have a relationship, I offend your relationship with somebody. Immediately you can see, visually you can see, he's angry, he's upset, or this or that you can see. But these are all spiritual relationships, isn't it? So you cannot see also what is happening. You may be in your own world. Only after a long time, you will see the reaction of that. So what is important is trying to understand how one should have these perceptions of Guru and Krishna, Sadhu, Shastra, how we are supposed to perceive it. And then we are in sync with the way Prabhupada and Shastra wants us to practice devotion service. We cannot be an upstart in devotion service and try to progress in spiritual life. The entire principle of spiritual life is servant of the servant of the servant. With all precautions, with all rules and regulations, with all caution, you cannot go from one end to the other end. Servant of the servant of the servant means without knowledge one cannot, without intelligence one cannot be the servant of the servant. With intelligence. Any questions? Mike.
Yeah, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, in India we see a lot of impersonalists. So when we are in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it's very difficult to understand them. But still there is a lot of impersonalists all around. So one question I have is that when we surrender to Krishna in Krishna consciousness, Krishna directly intervenes in our life and he manages our karma. But for impersonalist who surrenders to an absolute Brahman, how does it work? I mean, how does because karma is, Prabhupada has mentioned that impersonalism is the last snare of Maya, right? So, but at the same time, an impersonal is also fighting Maya. So, how does he get detached from Maya? It's...
Yeah, see, the impersonalist, when they are fighting Maya, they are also fighting, I agree. They are doing tapas. Tapas is punya. So they are earning a lot of punya. Punya can be exchanged. Punya is not a currency to buy Vishnu. Punya is a currency by which you can counter the papa. So definitely there is a materially effect is there for Brahman also. One who is meditating on Brahman because of his tapas, he will get the punya and he will definitely, material miseries, all these things, he will find relief. Even though it is not directly from the Lord. It is from the material laws itself are having this. It's encoded in the laws of material nature itself. So they find the effect. So their effect of that fighting against Maya, that means fighting against variegatedness. Variegatedness means Maya. You means Maya. Form means Maya. Taste means Maya. All this Maya. Variety means fire. They want to destroy all variety into oneness. It's not easy. You need a lot of jnanic tapasya for that. You have to hold your mind, you have to think like that, you have to separate yourself from this, and you have to, it's a effort to keep that identification energy from matter to you. Now we are identifying ourselves. So to detach that, so there is a tapasya that they do, so they get benefit for that. So that's an independent path, nothing to do with Krishna. directly interfering. Nothing to do with Krishna means, of course, material energy is working according punya, papa, dispensation is all working according to super soul only, but nothing to do with the way the Krishna guides his devotees. He changes their destiny. He changes their destiny in a manner in which the extent to which he wants to go towards Krishna, he will take him. That also he doesn't push himself. As I said, if you have enough desire, then he will take you. If you don't have enough desire, then he will leave you there. Because he cannot be unfair to, lift somebody up and not somebody else. You have to have something. Though it is said that you cannot earn Krishna, but somebody who begs more for Krishna has got better chances of getting from Krishna. So there is an activity which is in the material world. What you do is you work very hard, and then naturally law of karma has to give you the results. In the spiritual world, it is said that no, you cannot earn. It has to be given. That means, do I not do anything? Yes, there is something that you have to do. The intensity of begging, intensity of wanting. That intensity, that is something that you have to do. So that is why different devotees progress to different level in spiritual life. Why? Because of their degree of begging and degree of receiving the grace. जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.